I live in Washington State for almost 30 years. I have been working with King County for 24 out of those 30 years. I feel very fortunate that I have come across amazing people who have provided me with many opportunities. But I have also experienced racism as a person of color, as an immigrant. Maybe in subtle ways, maybe not as aggressive as others have faced, but it's still there, often. My story is that I'm very self-conscious about my accent. I was actually born in the United States, and I spoke English for the very first 5 years of my life. Then, my family had moved back to Mexico. And I had learned how to speak Spanish. Then my family had to move back to Mexico, and I had to learn how to speak Spanish at the age of 5. I forgot my English, of course, because I didn't practice it. At the age of 19, I decided to return to the U.S. for better opportunities. By then, my English had been completely erased from my brain, so I had to relearn it. And because I was already an adult, I do have an accent. I feel that the reason I'm self-conscious of it is because it's often pointed out. Sorry. I feel that the reason is that I'm very self-conscious, and it's often pointed out. My job is not to talk to people. My job is to talk to people, to talk to the community, and often, if I'm speaking English, the very first thing that people ask me is,
"Where are you from?"
Where are you from?
Where are you from?
To me, that means that they weren't paying attention to what I was trying to say. They were distracted by my accent. I work very hard not to try to have an accent, but at the same time, my accent is what identifies me. I'm very proud of being a Mexican woman. I don't want to deny my roots. I want to honor my ancestors. I think my accent is special, and I want to embrace it. But at the same time, I find it to be a barrier. It hurts when people sometimes assume that I don't know the content of my presentation, because I do have the vocabulary, but not the expensive vocabulary that they have.
Are you sure you don't mean a flowchart?
Or if I start talking to someone during a work conversation, or even a social conversation, and the person I'm talking to starts speaking a little louder.
This cake is good, yeah? I bet you're used to flan instead of birthday cake.
I know it's unconscious bias. I know that, and I told myself, they're not trying to hurt me, but it's there. It's there all the time, and many times, people are start trying to speak clearer or use more of a basic vocabulary to make sure that I'm understanding what they're saying. Of course I understand, and sometimes I even laugh at myself when I exchange emails, because my grammar can be sometimes better than their grammar, because I've been studying it. Of course, the accent is there. So the assumption that I don't have the command or the language, or that I'm not as smart as they are. My Spanish-speaking friends and I have a joke. And it's that we sound smarter when we speak Spanish. It is sad that we have to say that. We shouldn't be as smart as we are in any language, regardless of how many words or how well we can pronounce the words. That is my story. A very passive-aggressive racism. A very passive-aggressive racism. That's how I describe it. People have told me, go back to your country. Although many friends have been told many times, I have been very fortunate that no one has said it out loud. But the fact that I'm often asked, where are you from? Before I say anything, or in the middle of the presentation, or an introduction, it's a distraction. I lose my brain of thought when I'm trying to focus on the message that I want to share. That is my story. Thank you.